Hello, my name is Emmett, and this is the instructional video for the flipper. You'll need silicone lube or just any plastic safe lube, something to hammer with, and a 17/32 by 12-inch length brass tube. And I just have a little tape on here for B-cars and stuff. Before we start, I just want to say, getting a screwdriver and putting like a sort of big hex nut on it, and then that can help with putting pins in, and then you can kind of take a hammer or a wrench and just pound it down. Really helps immensely, so just keep that in mind before we start. So first what you do is you get your main body, and you're going to want to attach the trigger assembly. So we'll get these little parts out of this bag. What you want to do first is take your latch. You can see kind of back in there. You just want to stick your latch in, and then it's a little tricky, but you kind of just line up the hole, and then you take these kind of medium, I'm not sure what I named these, but just the correct length and correct hole diameter, and you just kind of try to shove it in there. Sometimes different orientation can help. Okay, now that you got that pin in, it might be a little stiff, the latch. You can just work that a little bit. Maybe add just a little bit of lubricant. Just maybe like into the peg a little bit, maybe that'll help. Onto just a few of the walls. And yeah, it doesn't have to be like free moving, but just enough where you can realistically move it with a little bit of torque from the trigger. So now we take the same size pin and we get the trigger, and we take the trigger, kind of orient it correctly, and a little slippery. Put the trigger in through this hole, kind of right here. And then you want to kind of get the trigger to push that latch up just a little bit, and then kind of align it in the hole. Then we take our peg and just kind of put it in. That one went in a lot easier. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfectly flush, because we're gonna cover this up with the handle later. Now you can take a screwdriver, just an extra peg, and bring this down. But then you take your bungee cord and you thread it right through this hole. Then just tie it right here. Okay, so now you should be able to see that latch go down when you pull the trigger. There we go. Now we're gonna take the handle and cover all this up. Make sure that the string part is kind of just tucked in there. And take these pegs that are kind of big and a little long. Just put two of them here. Now we will do the plunger assembly. So you take your rod, and you take either your O-ring plunger head or your bungee cord plunger head. Mine's pre-assembled. I kind of glued it on just on this part and this part. What you do is you just loop it around onto it. But I'm gonna do it with the O-ring version. So just take 2 O-rings, number 50 O-rings, and then you'll see the hole, and it's symmetric, so you can do it either way. Then you take one of these pins, and make sure that none of it is peeking out. There. What you want to do is take this cap piece and make sure that this notch is facing down, and then you have the cap piece like facing this way, and then just put it on there, and take your priming handle, put it on, and stick a peg that's the length into here. Now you got your plunger. Now you take the main body. It's important to lubricate the internals first. So just kind of a ring around the inside plunger. Now you can take your thing, and you might need to press the trigger a little bit to get it in. And it's important to place really small pegs, the smallest pegs you got, into this hole and this hole. And then you just kind of line it up and put everything where it's supposed to go. If this connection is a little loose, it might help to put some glue there on the pegs. But now we have our plunger. We should feel a little bit of air coming out of this part. Now what we're gonna do is get a little bit of a bungee cord, just kind of wedge it into this spot. There we go. Now I'll take this, you put this piece onto this, and sometimes you have to glue it on. I already have it glued on. It should be the same width as this. Now we got our latch. Take a little bit of bungee cord, put it through, tie it twice. Make sure it kind of interfaces with those kind of half circle cutouts. This part and this part. Okay. So now we got our little latch. Now I'll add the breech. So what you want to do is get some more bungee cord, kind of just wedge it in there. Alternatively, you can use these O-rings. Okay, now what you're gonna wanna do is get the breech. Both of them have bungee cord. And you're going to want to get these hinges, these hinge parts. And you just kind of put them like this, and they'll just kind of wedge fit in there. Now what you want to do is take this really long pin and just put it in there. Now we got them attached, and we can put this, maybe even, yeah, and we can latch it. And now we take one of these really thick pegs And we just line up the holes. So now that you got that, you can take the top dart bar, make sure that the slanted side is pointing the barrel, and you can kind of just slide it on and make sure it's flush with this kind of golden end. Now you can take these thick pegs and put them in both of the holes. Now once you've got those flush in, you can take your top Picatinny bar or rail, make sure that the slant is pointing the muzzle, and just kind of slide that in. Now take the remaining little pegs and just kind of put them in like so. Okay, now we have both pegs in. Now that rail is not going anywhere. Now the fun part is stringing it up. So what you do is you take a good amount of string and just put it through this hole. And then you want to loop around 3 times. Okay, almost done. Just take this kind of Phineas looking shape and take a small peg, put it in this hole. There we go. Then kind of put it in and then slide this shape into there. This is mostly just for aesthetics, makes it look more sci-fi. And then you can take a thick peg, put it through, and looks like I misprinted this piece a little bit. I'll fix that as well, so you won't have that problem. But now all we need to do is take our barrel, 12 inches, and just put it in here. Twisting can help. And yeah, now we have our blaster. Can't really get in camera. Ooh, look at that. Looks royal with the colors. But yeah, that's how you assemble the flipper. Really proud of it. First blaster I've ever designed and built, so I'm really happy. And yeah, thanks for purchasing and assembling my blaster. Like truly, it means a lot. And just a troubleshooting tip, if you're like trying to flip it up, but it just won't attach, either try flipping it up more aggressively, or you can untie the current bungee cord and retie it like a lot tighter, like as tight as you can. Also make sure that the bungee cord isn't interfering, because then it's never gonna lock. But yeah, just make the bungee cord super tight. Oh, accidentally untied it a little bit. But then it'll most likely flip up. If it doesn't, just contact me through my Blaster downloads page and tell me what printer you're using, and just some details about what's wrong, and I will help you out, or maybe send you an STL of a modified hook, and you can let me know if it works.